Hello everyone, and welcome to RadioCSIRT English Edition, your daily cybersecurity briefing. I'm Marc-Frédéric Gomez, your French cybersecurity voice covering today's threat landscape. I hope you're doing well. Today is Saturday, February 29th, 2026. This is episode 71. This is a special recap edition covering 3 weeks of cybersecurity news from February 7th to February 27th, 2026. These 3 weeks have been particularly intense. In this episode, here is what we will cover. First, active exploitation and emergency directives. Cisa issued Emergency Directive 2603 concerning Cisco Catalyst SD-wan. 6 zero-day vulnerabilities were patched during the February 2026 Patch Tuesday. There was an intrusion at the European Commission involving Ivanti systems. And Singapore's 4 telecom operators were infiltrated by the threat actor known as UNC 3886. Second, malware and offensive tooling. We will examine the DK-Knife framework, the Dohodor backdoor, the Arcanix infostealer, the ClickFix variant leveraging DNS, the SSH stalker botnet, and the sandworm mode campaign targeting the NPM ecosystem. Third, supply chain security and developer ecosystem risks. This includes critical vulnerabilities in Claude Code, malicious Next.js repositories used as traps, the large-scale compromise of OpenClaw servers, and the weaponization of the NPM ecosystem. Fourth, phishing, fraud, and social engineering. We will cover the Starkiller service, recruitment activity linked to Scattered Lapses hunters, the dismantling of a fraudulent call center, and the Lazarus campaign known as Grafalgo. And finally, notable vulnerabilities, certfr advisories, and major technology announcements. Detailed coverage of each topic follows in the next few minutes. Let's begin with Cisco. The Australian Signals Directorate identified and reported to Cisco the vulnerability CVE 2000-26-20000 127, an authentication bypass with a CVSS score of 10.0, affecting the SD-wan controller and the SD-wan manager. Attackers exploit a weakness in the peering authentication mechanism to obtain privileged access, add a rogue peer to the fabric, and establish persistence through root-level access. A threat hunting guide, co-authored with Cisa, the NSA, the UK NSC, and the Canadian and New Zealand CERTs, was released alongside the advisory. In parallel, Cisa issued Emergency Directive 2603, requiring U.S. federal civilian agencies to immediately inventory affected assets, collect forensic artifacts, apply patches, and conduct a compromise assessment. The deadline was set for February 27, 2026. Cisco Talos attributes the exploitation to an actor designated UAT8616, described as highly sophisticated and active since 2023. The attack chain combines CVE 2000-26-20000, 127 for initial access, and CVE 2022, 20,775 for privilege escalation. certfr published advisory certfr 2026 ALE 002, confirming active exploitation. Affected versions include Catalyst SD-wan 20.12.5x, 20.12.6x, 20.15x, and 20.18x, as well as versions prior to 20.9.8.2. Branches 20.11x, 20.13x, 20.14x, and 20.16x remain vulnerable, but will not receive patches as they have reached end of maintenance. No workaround is available. Now turning to Microsoft's February Patch Tuesday. The February 2026 Patch Tuesday addressed 58 vulnerabilities, including 6 actively exploited 0 days. Among the highlights are vulnerabilities in GitHub Copilot, triggered through prompt injection, a second desktop window manager 0 day in 2 months, a professional-grade exploit discovered in a malware repository by Across Security, and a remote desktop privilege escalation identified by CrowdStrike. A detailed technical breakdown is available on the blog. Next, the European Commission intrusion. The European Commission experienced a major cyber intrusion targeting its mobile device management infrastructure. Detected by CERT EUs, the attack is linked to the exploitation of critical vulnerabilities in Ivanti Endpoint Manager Mobile, referenced as CVE 2026-1281, and CVE 2026-1340. According to the Commission, the incident was contained in under 9 hours, with no direct compromise of mobile devices. However, attackers accessed staff names and phone numbers. Similar intrusion patterns have been observed against government institutions in the Netherlands and Finland. We now move to Singapore. The APT Group UNC 3886, linked to Chinese state interests, conducted a sophisticated campaign against Singapore's telecommunications sector. The National Cybersecurity Agency, the CSA, reported that all 4 major operators were infiltrated through zero-day exploitation and the deployment of stealth rootkits. The adversary focused on network equipment and VMware ESXi virtualization environments, successfully exfiltrating technical data used to map strategic infrastructure across the city-state. Another actively exploited platform, SolarWinds Web Help Desk. According to Huntress Security, attackers are exploiting critical vulnerabilities. CVE 2025-40,551 and CVE 2025-26,399 to achieve remote code execution via deserialization of untrusted Java data. After establishing initial access, operators deploy legitimate but repurposed tools, including the Zoho Manage Engine Agent and the Velociraptor Forensic Framework. Operations are coordinated through Cloudflare tunnels. These intrusions target strategic infrastructure, primarily to conduct reconnaissance within Active Directory environments. Finally, updates to the Cisa Known Exploited Vulnerabilities catalog. During this 3-week period, Cisa added multiple vulnerabilities to its Known Exploited Vulnerabilities list. Among them, CVE 2024-43468, ASQL injection in Microsoft Configuration Manager. CVE 2025-15556, an integrity verification flaw in Notepad++. CVE 2026-20700, multiple buffer overflows affecting Apple products. CVE 2026-1731, an OS command injection in Beyond Trust remote support and privileged remote access. CVE 2021-22175, a server-side request forgery in GitLab. CVE 2026-22769, hard-coded credentials in Dell RecoverPoint, and 2 Roundcube webmail vulnerabilities. CVE 2025-49113, a critical deserialization flaw with a CVSS score of 9.9. CVE 2025-68461, a cross-site scripting vulnerability exploitable through malicious SVG documents. We now move to offensive interception capabilities. Cisco Talos documented the dismantling of the DK-Knife framework, an interception toolkit used by China-linked actors since 2019. Operating directly at the router and edge device level, the framework leverages deep packet inspection to hijack legitimate Windows and Android update traffic, redirecting it toward backdoors such as ShadowPad. DK-Knife stands out for its active evasion capability. It can identify and neutralize antivirus network flows through TCP/RST packet injection, effectively disrupting defensive communications in real time. Continuing with advanced backdoor activity, Cisco Talos reports an ongoing campaign, active since December 2025, attributed to actor UAT 10027. The campaign targets the education and healthcare sectors in the United States and deploys a previously undocumented backdoor named Dodor. The malware leverages DNS over HTTPS through Cloudflare to resolve its command and control infrastructure. The infection chain relies on DLL sideloading through legitimate Windows executables such as fondue.exe and mblctr.exe. Payloads are decrypted using a position-dependent XOR-SUB routine, followed by process hollowing injection into system processes. The backdoor implements an EDR bypass technique by unhooking system calls within ntdll.dll. Talos assesses, with low confidence, a potential link to North Korea based on overlapping tactics, techniques, and procedures with the Lazarus Group. Next, an update from Kaspersky's great team. Arcanic Stealer is an infostealer operating under a malware as a service model since October 2025. Two implementations coexist. The first is a Python-based version with remotely configurable capabilities targeting 22 browsers, Telegram, Discord, and various VPN clients. The second is a native C++ implementation integrating VM Protect, Chrome Elevator for browser post-exploitation, and patching of AMSI scan buffer, and ETW EventWrite. Command and control communications are encrypted using AESGCM combined with PBKDF2 and HMACSHA256. Code analysis reveals probable traces of LLM-assisted development. The operator is believed to be German-speaking. The affiliate program was abruptly dismantled around December 2025 without prior notice. We now turn to DNS-based staging techniques. Microsoft Threat Intelligence disclosed a new ClickFix variant leveraging DNS as a staging channel. The initial command, executed through cmd.exe, uses nslookup to perform a DNS lookup toward an attacker-controlled external server. The DNS response is filtered and executed as a second-stage payload, leading to the deployment of Modelo Rat, a Python-based remote access Trojan. In parallel, Bitdefender reports increased activity of Llama Stealer, distributed through ClickFix campaigns deploying Castle Loader. Shifting to Linux infrastructure, Flare's research team identified a new botnet named SSH Stalker targeting Linux systems. Detected through an SSH honeypot, the botnet uses IRC as its command and control channel. SSH Stalker chains an SSH scanner with a rapid staging mechanism to enroll compromised machines. A notable characteristic is dormant persistence. Despite built-in DDoS and crypto mining capabilities, no impact operations have been observed so far, suggesting either infrastructure staging or strategic access retention. Finally, an update on the ransomware ecosystem. The Dragonforce Group continues expanding as a ransomware-as-a-service provider, claiming 363 victims on its data leak site since December 2023. The group relies on leaked code from Lockbit 3.0 and Conti. Through its ransom-based service, Dragonforce offers customized payloads and has adopted an aggressive competitive posture, defacing the Blacklock site and claiming control over the infrastructure of Ransom Hub. We now turn to vulnerabilities affecting AI development environments. Checkpoint Research identified critical vulnerabilities in Claude Code from Anthropic. 3 distinct attack vectors were documented. The first allows arbitrary command execution through hooks defined in the .claude/settings.json file within a repository. The second enables bypassing the user consent dialog for MCP servers by combining the parameter enable all project MCP servers within the project configuration. The third allows exfiltration of Anthropic API keys in clear text by redirecting the Anthropic_base_URL variable toward an attacker-controlled server. The stolen key provides access to all files shared within Anthropic workspaces. Anthropic patched all identified issues between August 2025 and January 2026. We now shift to a campaign targeting software developers. Microsoft warns of a coordinated operation targeting developers through malicious Next.js repositories disguised as legitimate projects or technical job interview exercises. 3 execution vectors were identified. The first leverages automation of Visual Studio Code workspaces through the run-on folder open trigger. The second activates during build execution via npm run dev. The third triggers at backend startup and includes exfiltration of environment variables. All 3 techniques converge toward the same in-memory JavaScript payload. GitLab banned 131 accounts linked to the operation known as Contagious Interview and to the Wagemore scheme. Investigations revealed a structured cell that generated more than $1.64 million between 2022 and 2025. We now move to large-scale infrastructure compromise. According to analysts at Flare, more than 30,000 OpenClaw servers were compromised within a matter of weeks. Multiple coordinated campaigns exploited misconfigured servers and the ClawHub plugin ecosystem. One operation, identified as Claw Havoc, relied on fake installation scripts deploying info stealers and keyloggers. In parallel, The platform has integrated Virus Total Code Insight capabilities to analyze each software component through its SHA-256 fingerprint. Next activity within the NPM ecosystem. Socket identified the sandworm_mode campaign, exploiting at least 90 malicious NPM packages through typo squatting techniques. The objective is to steal credentials, cryptographic keys, and CI/CD secrets. A module named MCP Inject specifically targets AI coding assistance by injecting malicious MCP servers combined with embedded prompt injection techniques. We now broaden the perspective to the cybercriminal economy. Group IB describes how supply chain attacks now fuel a self-reinforcing cybercriminal ecosystem. Compromise of open source packages supports malware distribution and credential theft. Abuse of OAuth protocols enables compromise of SaaS environments and CI/CD pipelines. Ransomware and extortion operations occur at the final stage, monetizing access obtained earlier in the intrusion chain. Finally, a structural initiative in secure AI development. Cisco has transferred its Project CodeGuard security framework to the Coalition for Secure AI hosted by Oasis Open. The framework is tool agnostic and integrates security rules directly into AI coding assistant workflows. It is compatible with Cursor, GitHub Copilot, Windsurf, and Claude Code. The Coalition for Secure AI now includes more than 40 partners, among them Google, Anthropic, OpenAI, NVIDIA, Microsoft, and Amazon. We now turn to phishing as a service operations. The phishing platform known as Starkiller, analyzed by Abnormal AI, allows operators to dynamically load legitimate login pages from targeted brands and function as a reverse proxy between the victim and the authentic website. The mechanism relies on a Docker container running a headless Chrome instance. Every keystroke, form submission, and session token is relayed through attacker-controlled infrastructure. Operated by the group Jinkusu, the service effectively neutralizes multi-factor authentication protections by transparently relaying the entire authentication flow. We now move to recruitment tactics within cybercriminal ecosystems. The group known as Scattered Lapsus Hunters is actively recruiting women to strengthen its social engineering operations. According to Telegram posts identified by Data Minar, the group offers payments ranging from $500 to $1,000 per call, indexed to success rates. The primary targets are IT help desks, with the objective of obtaining credentials that enable initial network access within targeted organizations. This initiative reflects a broader trend toward criminal crowdsourcing models. Next, a coordinated law enforcement operation. Eurojust coordinated the dismantling of a fraudulent call center operating from 3 offices in Dnipro, Ukraine. The joint operation, conducted with Latvian, Lithuanian, and Ukrainian authorities, resulted on February 17, 2026, in the arrest of 11 members of a criminal group running a fraudulent cryptocurrency investment scheme. Seizures included 400,000 euros in cash, 2 cryptocurrency wallets, and 8 luxury vehicles. Searches were carried out across 32 locations. We now turn to activity attributed to Lazarus. Reversing Labs identified malicious packages on NPM and PYPI linked to the campaign known as GraphAlgo, attributed to the North Korean Lazarus Group. Active since May 2025, the operation targets JavaScript and Python developers through fake cryptocurrency sector job offers. The attackers operate under the cover of a fictitious company named Veltrix Capital and approach victims through LinkedIn, Facebook, and Reddit. The modular 5-phase operation culminates in deployment of a remote access Trojan featuring token-protected command and control communications and detection capabilities for crypto wallets such as MetaMask. Finally, a phishing campaign targeting Japanese users. Brad Duncan documented on Theson's Internet Storm Center a Japanese-language phishing campaign. Fraudulent emails impersonate brands including ANA, DHL, and My Tokyo Gas. The sending domains and phishing URLs are consistently registered under the .cn top-level domain. All collected samples share a common header indicator, the Xmailer signature Foxmail. We now turn to industrial system vulnerabilities. Cisa published advisory ICSA 26-04101 concerning Yokogawa Fast/Tools industrial systems. 14 vulnerabilities were identified, with CVSS scores reaching 8.2. The issues expose the energy and manufacturing sectors to significant risks, including path traversal and session hijacking. The use of obsolete cryptographic algorithms allows remote attackers to conduct man-in-the-middle operations. We now move to the Fortinet ecosystem. Two major authentication-related flaws have been disclosed. CVE 2026-22153 is an authentication bypass in FortiOS affecting agentless VPN deployments and FSSO policies. CVE 2026-21743 within FortiAuthenticator is an authorization flaw classified as CWE862. It allows a read-only user to modify local accounts through an insecure file upload mechanism. Next, a vulnerability affecting workflow automation platforms. CVE 2026-27495 impacts N8N, the open-source workflow automation platform. Classified as CWE94 code injection, the vulnerability allows an authenticated user to escape the JavaScript task runner sandbox and execute arbitrary code remotely. When running in internal runner mode, exploitation can lead to full host compromise. Patches are available in versions 1.1 to 3.22, 2.9.3, and 2.10.1. We now review additional advisories issued by certfr and international counterparts. certfr 2026 AV I0218 reports multiple vulnerabilities in VMware products, with more than 30 related Broadcom bulletins. certfr 2026 AV I0216 covers CVE 2026-3172 in the PG vector extension for PostgreSQL. certfr 2026 AVI 0212 details critical vulnerabilities in Center-on Web and Open Tickets, including remote code execution and SQL injection. certfr 2026 AVI 0181 concerns Apache Tomcat. certfr 2026 AVI 0189 addresses a vulnerability in F5 Big IP. certfr 2026 AVI 0197 documents 3 vulnerabilities in Microsoft Edge. Additional disclosures include IceWarp, CVE 2025-14500, an OS command injection with a CVSS score of 9.8. Mozilla libvpx CVE 2026-2447, a heap-based buffer overflow with a CVSS score of 8.8. And rapid weaponization of smarter mail vulnerabilities, CVE 2026-24423 and CVE 2026-23760, observed through underground Telegram channels. We now move to SAP Patch Day. Security Bulletin AV26107 details critical patches for SAP S/4HANA, NetWeaver ASABAP, and business objects. CVE 2026-0488 and CVE 2026-0509 affect the scripting editor and supply chain management mechanisms. Finally, activity targeting large language models. The Google Threat Intelligence Group documented a large-scale extraction campaign targeting the Gemini model. More than 100,000 queries were submitted as part of a model distillation attack. The group APT31, also known as Violet Typhoon and Zirconium, and attributed to China, reportedly used Gemini to plan cyber operations against U.S. organizations. The report further notes that other state-linked actors associated with Iran, North Korea, and Russia are also experimenting with Gemini at various stages of the offensive lifecycle. We now turn to geopolitical and strategic cyber developments. The Winter Olympic Games in Milano Cortina are facing a wave of cyber attacks attributed to Russia. Italy's Minister of Foreign Affairs confirmed that diplomatic offices and Olympic infrastructure have been targeted. The defensive posture of the event is further strained by supply chain tensions, as the chief executive officer of Cloudflare has threatened to withdraw pro bono protection services following a regulatory dispute with Italian authorities. In France, an espionage case emerged in the Gironde region. According to ZDNet, 2 Chinese nationals were formally charged for operating a clandestine interception station from a rented Airbnb property. Seized equipment was designed for sniffing communications over the Starlink network and intercepting military frequencies. We now move to anonymization infrastructure. Krebs on Security reports that the IoT botnet known as KimWolf attempted to connect approximately 700,000 infected devices as nodes on the I2P anonymization network. I2P typically operates with 15 to 20,000 active participants. The influx resulted in a large-scale Sybil attack. The objective appears to be the construction of a resilient command and control infrastructure. The I2P network is currently operating at roughly half of its normal capacity. Turning to Ukraine, Ukrainian cybersecurity officials stated during the Kiev International Cyber Resilience Forum that Russian cyber operations against energy infrastructure have evolved. Rather than focusing solely on disruption, attacks are now oriented toward intelligence collection to calibrate missile strikes and assess their effectiveness. Next, an incident documented by AWS Amazon Web Services published an incident report detailing the compromise of more than 600 FortiGate firewalls across 55 countries by a Russian-speaking financially motivated group. The attackers leveraged commercial generative AI tools to produce playbooks, attack scripts, and automation tooling. This enabled a relatively small group to operate at a scale typically associated with much larger teams. We now turn to insider risk and connected devices. The arrest of a 19-year-old contractor at the Dassault aviation site in Cergy highlights the security risks posed by discrete connected devices within sensitive industrial facilities. The individual, working on the Rafale assembly line, was wearing Ray-Ban Meta smart glasses equipped with a camera. He was placed in custody on suspicion of harming the fundamental interests of the nation, but was later released as no malicious use was established. Next, a major telecom breach. The Dutch telecommunications operator Odido experienced a large-scale compromise affecting 6.2 million customer accounts. Attackers exfiltrated names, addresses, banking details, dates of birth, and identity document numbers from a customer contact system. No technical details regarding the intrusion vector have been disclosed. We now turn to financial sector exposure. PayPal notified approximately 100 customers of a personal data exposure caused by a coding error in its working capital module. The exposure, active from July 1st to December 13th, 2025, included names, social security numbers, dates of birth, and professional contact information. Finally, a strategic warning from Canada. The Communications Security Establishment and the Canadian Centre for Cybersecurity are urging Canadian organizations and critical infrastructure operators to strengthen defensive measures against pro-Russian cyber threats as the fourth anniversary of the invasion of Ukraine approaches. We now turn to operating system developments. Linus Torvalds confirmed that the next Linux kernel release after version 6.19 will be numbered 7.0. The first release candidate has been published, with a stable release expected in mid-April 2026. This development cycle introduces support for Intel Nova Lake and AMD Zen 6 processors, along with scheduler and memory subsystem optimizations, as well as updates to drivers and file systems. Moving to compiler security implications, at FOSDEM 2026, the maintainer of the Baton cryptographic library demonstrated how aggressive optimizations in GCC 15.2 can neutralize constant time implementations designed to prevent side-channel attacks. In attempting to eliminate conditional branches, the compiler may inadvertently reintroduce timing vulnerabilities. As a result, developers are forced to rely on inline assembly to preserve constant time guarantees. Next, updates in the text editor ecosystem. The Vim project announced the release of Vim 9.2 on February 14, 2026. This major version introduces native support for enums, generic functions, and the tuple type in Vim 9 script. It also provides full Wayland support and compliance with the XDG-based directory specification. Numerous security vulnerabilities, memory leaks, and potential crash conditions have been addressed. We now shift to vulnerability management strategy. The UKNCSC advocates for a risk-based approach to vulnerability management rather than relying solely on CVSS scores. The objective is to prioritize remediation based on real-world exploitability while strengthening identity segmentation controls. Turning to Microsoft Lifecycle updates. Microsoft announced the end of support for Windows 10 Enterprise LTSB 2016 on October 13th. 2026, and for Windows Server 2016 on January 12, 2027. An extended security updates program will be offered at $61 per device for the first year, with the cost doubling each consecutive year. Finally, a new open source credential testing tool. A tool named Brutus has appeared on GitHub. Written in Go as a single standalone binary without external dependencies, it supports 22 protocols and embeds the SSH bad keys collections from Rapid7 and HashiCorp Vagrant. Its experimental AI-powered credential discovery feature combines artificial intelligence vision techniques with a headless browser to automatically identify and test default credentials on unlisted web administration panels. This concludes this special recap edition of RadioCSIRT, covering 3 weeks of cybersecurity news from February 7th to February 27th, 2026. Detailed articles on Resurge, Azul, and the February 2026 Patch Tuesday are available on the blog at blog.markfrederickgomez.com. All sources referenced in this episode are listed in the RadioCSIRT English Edition newsletter, available on Substack. To follow the daily episodes, visit RadioCSIRT.com or your usual podcast platform. You can also join the community on social media. I am Mark Frederick Gomez. Thank you for listening, and I will speak to you very soon in the next episode of RadioCSIRT. And that brings this episode to a close. I hope it has provided clear and useful information. Until then, we do not think, we patch. If you are a new listener, feel free to subscribe to the RadioCSIRT podcast. The show is available in English, French, Italian, and Spanish on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, YouTube, Cisa, and Spotify. All open source intelligence links referenced in this episode are available on RadioCSIRT.com. See you soon for a new episode. Take care. Goodbye.